The sun was just beginning to rise over the Wyoming plains when Elijah Carter, a weary cowboy with only one horse left to his name, spotted something unusual by the ridge. At first, he thought it was a wild animal collapsed in the brush, but as he approached, rifle ready, he froze. It was a woman, an Apache woman, young, wounded, and barely conscious. Blood had soaked through the buckskin at her shoulder, and her breathing was shallow. Her horse lay dead a few yards away, arrows scattered on the ground. Elijah knew the risks. Tensions between settlers and Apache warriors were at their peak. If anyone saw him helping her, they'd call him a traitor, or worse. But when her eyes fluttered open, filled with pain and fear, Elijah made his decision. "You're safe," he said quietly, his voice steady. "I ain't here to harm you." She tried to speak, but her voice failed her. Without hesitation, Elijah lifted her carefully onto his saddle. It was the only horse he owned, his livelihood, his last tie to survival. Yet without a second thought, he gave it up for her. As he led the horse on foot toward his remote cabin, the wind whispered along the plains, carrying with it a warning Elijah could not yet hear. His act of mercy had been seen. And far beyond the ridge, 70 Apache warriors were already gathering. By the time Elijah brought the wounded woman to his cabin, her skin was pale, and her strength nearly gone. He carefully laid her on his bed and began tending to her wound. She watched him through half-lidded eyes, confused, suspicious, but too weak to resist. "Elijah," he finally introduced himself softly. She whispered a single word in return, barely audible. "Ayanna." As he stitched the wound, rain began to fall. Then a streak of lightning cracked across the sky. Elijah's instinct suddenly screamed a warning. He stepped outside and scanned the horizon. In the distance, barely visible through the rain, a cloud of dust approached. Riders. He rushed back inside. Ayanna's eyes had widened. She understood before he did. "My people," she whispered. But there was no relief in her voice. Only fear. Before Elijah could ask more, a war horn echoed through the valley. 70 Apache warriors crested the hill, their spears raised, faces stern and unreadable. Elijah stood in front of his cabin, unarmed, the rain soaking through his shirt. The warriors surrounded him in silence. Then, the chief dismounted, an elder of formidable presence. His eyes were locked on Elijah, not with anger, but with a depth Elijah could not interpret. Ayanna weakly called out from inside, "Father." The chief froze. The warriors gripped their spears. And Elijah realized he had not just saved a woman, he had saved the daughter of an Apache chief. The chief stepped forward, eyes blazing with power and grief. The warriors formed a circle around Elijah, as if preparing for his execution. Elijah stood tall, though outnumbered 70 to 1. "Why is my daughter in your bed?" the chief demanded, his English rough but clear. "She was dying," Elijah replied. "I gave her my horse. I carried her here. I meant no disrespect." The warriors murmured with surprise. No settler would willingly give up his only horse, especially for an Apache. The chief entered the cabin. When he emerged moments later, his eyes were wet, not with weakness, but with the pride of a father whose child had been spared. Ayanna had spoken in their native tongue, telling him the truth, that Elijah never harmed her, never touched her, only saved her. But Apache justice was sacred. A life taken must be replaced. A war party had already been dispatched to recover the chief's daughter. Blood had nearly been spilled. "You gave your horse," the chief said slowly. "The Apache do not take without giving." The warriors stepped forward, parting, revealing 3 riderless horses of pure strength and beauty. Horses worth more than gold. But that was not all. Ayanna's father spoke again. "My daughter lives because of you. Our debt is beyond measure. You will not pay with your life." He paused, the wind howling around them. "You will be honored, with a gift the Apache have never given to a white man." Elijah stared in disbelief as Ayanna was brought outside, wrapped in ceremonial blankets. The warriors stood in reverent silence. The chief raised his staff. "This man saved the life of my blood. He will be known to our people as brother of the Apache." Gasps rippled through the warriors. To call a white man brother was unheard of. But the chief was not finished. "My daughter owes him her life. And the Apache do not allow a life debt to go unpaid." He turned to Ayanna. She nodded once, eyes steady despite her injuries. "From this day, she belongs to him, not as property, but as wife." Elijah stepped back, stunned. That wasn't why I helped her, he said quickly. The chief nodded. And that is why you are worthy. Ayanna looked at Elijah, not with fear, but with calm acceptance, and something else. Gratitude. Trust. The warriors laid down offerings, bows, furs, horses, symbols of alliance. But even as peace settled over the valley, Elijah sensed this was only the beginning. Not everyone would accept a cowboy living among the Apache. And not all Apache agreed with their chief's decision. In the shadows of the canyon, eyes watched with jealousy and hate. And far beyond, word of this union would soon reach men with rifles, and laws that did not recognize an Apache wife. Ayanna recovered under Elijah's care, and each day, their bond quietly deepened. She was gentle, but strong. Though they spoke different languages, they shared a silent understanding that ran deeper than words. The Apache warriors camped nearby, protecting their chief's daughter. Elijah's cabin became a place of peace, smoke from cooking fires rising against sunsets painted with gold and crimson. But the storm came suddenly. On the seventh day, a gunshot echoed through the valley. A bullet struck the ground near Elijah's boots. He looked up to see a posse of settlers on horseback, men from the nearby town. They had come armed, eyes burning with anger. "You're harboring an Indian," their leader spat. "Hand her over and we'll let you live." Before Elijah could reply, 70 Apache warriors emerged from the trees, bows drawn, arrows aimed. The settlers froze, suddenly realizing their numbers were nothing. Elijah stepped forward. "There'll be no bloodshed today," he said. His voice rang across the valley. Ayanna stood beside him, holding his arm. The chief rode forward, his presence like thunder. "This land now belongs to both our peoples," he declared. Together. The settlers hesitated. In that moment, Elijah made his choice, not as a loner, not as a cowboy, but as something new. A bridge between worlds. And as the sun rose the next morning, Elijah realized. The horse he had given away had returned to him, not in flesh, but in destiny. A destiny greater than any man could ride away from.